When Elijah was a year old, I just thought, I'm not going to take any chances. I've got 2 children here, and I'm just not going to do it. So I just told him.
I'll always have a certain kind of love for in my heart.
Please love me.
Hey, it wasn't too long of an interruption, and we have a beautiful child to show for it.
By 1979, single mother Cher kept busy raising 2 small children. Of course, she also kept busy being Cher.
She was having rollerblading parties on weeknights and wearing spangled tops, and that's the music that everybody was listening to. Disco was in. Disco was king.
For Cher, disco was yet another arena to conquer, and she did, when her single Take Me Home became a smash hit. The album cover raised a few eyebrows, but the music had unleashed a new vocal power in Cher, and she loved it.
There are people who can make one note happen and you know exactly who it is, whether it's a musician or a singer. And by 1 or 2 notes you say, that's Cher. She has that.
Disco was a good outlet for her because she sings it great. But I think she was a rock and roll girl, you know. She loves guitars and guitar players.
Cher would meet her next guitar player boyfriend at a Casablanca Records bash in Hollywood, at Chastity's insistence, that is.
Her daughter, Chastity, had told her that she had to go to this party because Gene Simmons was going to be there. And Cher told me later on that she said, Gene Simmons, I'm such a big fan, I can't wait to go. I've seen all of her movies. Chastity's going to be talking about, you know, Gene Simmons, the guy that sticks his tongue out. Cher was oblivious, didn't have a clue who I was, what Kiss was. She invited me to her home, and we sat around all night, literally till dawn, and just talked.
Well, he didn't act like Greg, and he didn't look like Sonny. In fact, nobody really knew what he looked like.
Gene Simmons and Cher, I just don't get it. Okay, they both wear interesting costumes, I guess, but I just don't get it. Gene Simmons called me once. I wanted to help him write a book. It was going to be a book of photos. Every girl he'd going out with naked. And he wanted to do this book. And he's that kind of guy. Cher's not that kind of woman.
You think about his list of having been with so many women, but that all fades away when you connect with somebody.
This wasn't a simple connection. This was 2 worlds colliding. Cher was reveling in disco divadom, and Gene was the commander of a vast Kiss army.
My life changed drastically when Cher and I met. Kiss fans are jealous to the extreme. They don't want wives around. They don't want girlfriends around. They certainly didn't want Cher around. They didn't like the whole idea because all of a sudden the paparazzi were following me and we were trying to protect our identities because we'd never been seen without our makeup. And it was causing an awful lot of friction within the band. Better to bed down 10 groupies at the same time than have a relationship with Cher. It was horrific for me, but I didn't care. You know, I was smitten.
I saw a Kiss show before I saw my own father's show. Gene was one of the first people to kind of occupy that position after my father left, so in a lot of ways he was the father figure for me during that time period.
But when Cher and Gene split in 1980, it did more than upset the family dynamic. It took Cher to another career crossroad. Her success in music had brought fame and fortune, but Cher still felt that she could do more. She thought of her days in high school drama class and how her Hollywood dreams were cut short when her singing career took flight. What Cher really wanted to do was act.
She had tried to get people in Hollywood to let her read, and nobody would let her read for a part. They didn't think she could act. I mean, literally just really trying for 5 years and everyone going, no, 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 no. You can never be an actress. You have one name.
Fortunately for her, on stage, that name was Money in the Bank. Although Cher still had her sights set on what she considered to be bigger and better things, she accepted a life on the Las Vegas Strip until one night in 1982 when fortune smiled upon her, thanks in part to her mother's mistake.
I was doing an audition for Joe Papp, and my mother was calling to see how the audition turned out. and she woke Robert up from his sleep. Robert Altman's wife was a good friend of mine from the old days, and she just had these two New York numbers together, and she said, "Hello, is Cher there?" It's true. And he went, "What would Cher be doing?" Actually, that's not what he said, but would Cher be doing here? And she said, "Who is this?" And he said, "Who is this?" And she said, "This is Georgia." I said, "Oh, you know, Cher's in New York." So I come out of the audition, and there's a message there that said, "Call Robert Altman."
Altman, an esteemed director, was known for taking chances by casting actors out of their element.
Well, he gave me a part in Nashville when everyone thought I was Ernestine from Laughing. He's not conventional or traditional in any way at all. I think he loves the idea of getting someone like Cher and knowing that he's going to get a great performance out of her.
Cher was headed to Broadway to co-star in Altman's new play, Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean, Jimmy Dean.
Somewhere in the middle of opening night, I looked over at Sandy Dennis and I thought, what am I doing out here with all these people? And had like this major panic attack and got through to intermission, and I went up to her room and I said, "I can't go back on stage." And she said, "Okay." And then I did, and then it was fine.
Director Mike Nichols caught the play and was impressed by Cher's performance.
Mike Nichols wouldn't let her read when she was in Hollywood, but when he came to the matinee, he came backstage and he said, "You're right, you really can act." And he said, "How would you like to do a movie with Meryl Streep?" And of course, she said yes without even knowing what the part was.
It didn't matter. Cher was going to be a movie star.
Name?
Karen Silkwood.
Drew Stevens?
Dolly Pellicker.
Silkwood was absolutely Cher's breakthrough film. This was directed by Mike Nichols, who was, as quality directors go, it didn't come more sterling. She was starring with Meryl Streep, who was as close as you could get to an acting god, and she did just fine.
The film was the true life story of Karen Silkwood, an employee of a nuclear power plant whose attempt to blow the whistle on her corrupt company may have cost her her life. Cher's role, Karen's lesbian roommate, a brave choice for her first significant part.
When she was in Silkwood with Meryl Streep and her name came up on the credits, people laughed in the audience.
My reaction was, huh? I had bought the persona of Sonny and Cher. I mean, I couldn't believe that Cher was going to do this.
I am really not interested. Try Karen.
I think she enjoyed stripping away all that artifice. She wanted to prove something to America that she really was an actress.
But first, she would have to prove it to herself.
I unpacked my bags about 3 or 4 times, and I was unpacking and my sister was packing. And I kept saying, "I can't do this," and she said, "Yes, you can." And literally, I was taking the things out of my suitcase, putting them on the bed. My sister was going to the bed, putting them back in the suitcase. And I remember saying to my sister, "How can I act with Meryl Streep?" And she said, "Well, obviously they think you can."
I had seen her act in Jimmy Dean on Broadway. Somehow seeing her on stage took away the pop star thing that was kind of distancing. So she was my girlfriend, like from the first day.
And I got there, and Meryl came up to me and hugged me and said, "I'm so glad you're here."
Immediately she said, "Oh, I'm so nervous. Oh my God, I'm so nervous."
And here was this brilliant, funny, really good actress who was just ready to blossom.
Oh, listen to this. Genetic damage.
Meaning what?
Meaning it goes on down into your kids. It says here, gross physical and mental defects.
I already got them.
And that was for Cher, the film that everyone said, "Oh, okay, wait a minute. She's more than just a Bob Mackie gown."
I love you, Karen.
I love you too.
I don't mean I love you too.
Oh no, that's not what you mean. That's what I mean. I think she likes shocking people. And it's almost as if the more they laughed,